59 of the 98 pages of the Georgia indictment, or 60% of the total, concerns just one of the 41 charges listed. That's the RICO, or Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It's a charge whose federal version has been made famous in TV and film, ironically by one of the 19 defendants, Rudy Giuliani, who used it as a U.S. district attorney against the New York mob and others in the 1980s. Jason Carroll has more about it.
This is the 11th RICO indictment.
The Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO for short, was originally passed in 1970 as a tool to help wipe out organized crime.
The verdict was like a bullet, puncturing John Gotti's longtime image of invincibility from the law.
At the time, it was dubbed the trial of the century, the U.S. versus John Gotti.
The boss of the Gambino crime family was found guilty today on all 13 counts of murder and racketeering.
In the early 90s, prosecutors took down Gotti and charged him with racketeering, extortion, and murder. The law also used to take down the Lucchese family and mafia underlings throughout organized crime. RICO laws allowed prosecutors to connect multiple crimes among multiple defendants to tell a story of corruption.
This case charges more mafia bosses in one indictment than any ever before.
The prosecutor credited for using RICO to take on the mob was a young, ambitious U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, Rudy Giuliani.
This is a great day for law enforcement, but this is a bad day, probably the worst, for the mafia.
And now, in an ironic twist, Giuliani is among those charged in the Georgia case, now having to defend himself against a charge he once prosecuted.
This is a ridiculous application of the racketeering statute. This is not meant for election disputes.
It's not just for people who are in organized crime. It's also for people whose collars are white and who may have Ivy League degrees. And so that's what we've seen in a variety of cases.
RICO sent shudders throughout Wall Street after jurors sent American financier Michael Milken to prison in 1990 for fraud related to insider trading and tax evasion.
And while RICO is a federal law, many states, including the state of Georgia, have developed their own versions. And prosecutors have used these laws to prove racketeering conspiracies. In other words, they string together separate allegations of misconduct committed by different people towards a common goal or purpose into a single indictment.
Fulton County, Georgia's DA, Fani Willis, is well known for using RICO. As an assistant DA, she used the law to prosecute a case against Atlanta public school educators accused of scheming to inflate standardized test scores. In her current position, she again used RICO against rapper Jeffrey Lamar Williams, known as Young Thug, alleging he oversaw crimes ranging from armed robbery to murder. He pleaded not guilty. His trial still underway. Legal experts say the RICO case involving Trump and the other 18 defendants is faced with many legal challenges.
The length of the trial is taxing on a jury, and this will be a long trial. And the jury instructions at the end are hard to follow. They're complicated, and the jury will have to really pay attention closely.
Jason Carroll, CNN, New York.
Joined now by our Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst, John Miller. He's a former NYPD Deputy Commissioner. He covered organized crime's demise in New York under RICO as a reporter back in the 1980s. I was saying I always expect to see you, and do see you often, in those old mob footage.
It's my Hitchcock.
It's exactly. So how, in your experience, does a prosecutor benefit from a RICO law?
You know, the RICO law was written by Robert Blakey, a professor at Notre Dame Law School who was trying to tackle the problem with cases involving organized crime, the mob, where the boss was insulated from all the crimes which were done by people at the bottom or the middle. And he said, what about we charge the organization? So the organization is the enterprise, and anybody who works within the enterprise, including those who run it, are equally guilty for all the enterprise's crimes. So RICO gave prosecutors a way to tell a story to a jury that this is about a corrupt enterprise, and it's run by a boss, and these henchmen do these things, and they're all responsible.
And Giuliani, how did he use it? I mean, was he the first to do it against the mob?
That's a great question, because Anderson, Robert Blakey was sitting there writing this law, trying to figure out how to make it interesting, because it's complicated, and he was, watching the Edward G. Robinson movie Little Caesar, where in the end he's screaming, is this the end of RICO? and he said, RICO, we'll call it
No
RICO.
kidding, really?
And then he had to fit the
That's where
words
it
to
came
actually
from?
fit the letters.
That's amazing.
You know, racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. It sounds awkward because it is. The acronym came before the words. But the point is, it sat dormant for 10 years, from 1970 to the late 70s, 78, 79, 1980. But Giuliani revolutionized it because he took it and he said, we're going to charge the bosses of all 5 organized crime families of New York City, the leadership of La Cosa Nostra, who sit on a board of directors called the Commission. The enterprise is going to be the Commission, that is the board of directors for the mafia, and we're going to charge all the leaders and not any of the little henchmen or anything. And he got convictions across the board in that case. And after that, people looked at RICO and said, this is a real tool to take down criminal organizations, cartels, gangs, and in applications that are strange where you see the corruption in a police department. So the Key West Police Department was identified as a racketeering organization and put out of business in a RICO prosecution. The Hells Angels, street gangs, and so on.
Just very quickly, there's this person now who's been charged in Texas for making a threat against Judge Tanya Chutkan and others. I guess no surprise given the climate that we're in and the rhetoric that is being thrown around.
So we've seen threats to the Manhattan DA since Alvin Bragg bought the first Trump indictment, threats to Fani Willis in Atlanta, and even to the sheriff, and now to this federal judge who was particularly tough on Donald Trump in the first hearing. This arrest is basically a signal from the federal government that if you make these threats, we're going to find you, we're going to track you down, we're going to charge you. It's a measure of behavior modification. You can't get away with this just by doing it and thinking nobody's going to follow up.
Yeah. John Miller, thank you so much. Appreciate it.